chapter was authored by King David himself. And this was authored at the beginning of his rulership, at the beginning of his reign. Not long after he was crowned, the Philistines, the Pelishtim, the Philistines, they went up to wage war against King David. King David's emunah and bitachon in Hashem, his trust in God, was so great. He trusted that his kingdom was guaranteed, as we see how the words go in the chapter, that he had no fear. So let's start explaining a few of the verses. In the first verse it says as follows, why have nations gathered to threaten me, and nations planning against me with empty words? We have two words in this verse that we use for nations. One word is goyim, which means nations, and one word we use is umim, also nations. Why does King David switch the words for the same translation? They both mean nations. Why switch the words? The answer is as follows. Goyim, we're not talking about Gentiles. We're talking about all nations. Goyim are together for two reasons. One, they can be bound together just because they live in a certain place. Doesn't necessarily that mean they have the same beliefs. Doesn't necessarily that mean they have the same religion, the same political beliefs. Doesn't mean they're the same. They're just bound for one reason, and one reason only, because they all live in the same area. That's the word goyim. We're in the first verse. The second word that the first verse uses for nations is umim. Umim mean, they not only live in the same area, but geographically bound together, but they are bound together by the same beliefs, the same religious beliefs, the same political beliefs. They have the same values. Those are a different type of nations. By the way, those are a stronger nations. Because you see, nations that are together, bound together by their beliefs and by their religion, they are a much stronger people together. Whereas if you can live in the same neighborhood, right? But if you have different values and different beliefs, chances are you can end up turning against each other. So that's why King David uses both of those words. Number one. Number two, in the second verse, it says, Yitziasvu. Kings are standing strong. Yitziasvu malchei eretz. The kings of the land stand strong. It could have said, not Yitziasvu, they stand strong, but Amdu, Yamdu, they stand strong. Omeid is to stand. La'amod, to stand up. Why the word Yitziasvu and not Omeid, Imdu, to stand strong? And the reason is because Imdu means just to stand. You stand in one place, you stand in another place, you move around. Yitziasvu is they stand so strong that they are determined to take over. They're standing upright. They don't understand one thing. And this is a very important thing. And this is why in the same verse, verse 2, it says, you know who you're standing up against? Al Hashem, on God, Va'al Mashiach, and his anointed one, means his king, King David. Wait a minute. They didn't stand up against God. Who did they rebel against? Who did they want to wage war with? King David. But the answer is, you think you're standing up strong against a human, you think you standing up strong against a country, as long as it's God's anointed human, it's God's anointed country, it's God's gift to us, you can start up with the land, but you're not starting up with the land or the people. You're starting up with God. And once you start up with God, you can stand as strong as you want. But at the end, you will fail. That has happened to us throughout all of our generations, from Paro to the Romans, to the Spanish, to the Greeks, to the Germans, Yamach Shamam, to every persecution that we went through. They stood up strong against us, tried to wipe us out. Haman wanted to wipe us out in Purim. Lahashmid or laharig la'abed, to wipe us out completely, just like Hitler wanted. And yet they stood up strong. And at the end, before Hitler died, he wrote in his book that he failed. Why did he fail? Because he couldn't wipe us all out. Why? Because we are, the bottom line, we are God's people. And look at history. Throughout history, all these people were empires, were strong, stood up strong, and they're all gone. We are the ones, the little minority, the Bnei Yisrael, we Jews, we are still here. Next, if you look in verse 6, Va'ani nosachti malki, and I anointed my king to rule over Zion, Har Kodshi, Zion, and my holy mountain, Jerusalem. King David is the one who was the one to conquer Jerusalem, Zion. Jerusalem is called Ir David, the city of David. Why? Because King David is the one who conquered Jerusalem. King David is the one who conquered Zion, It's an amazing, amazing thing. Let's look at verse 7. Asapra el chok Hashem omar elai beni ato ani hayom yelidaticha, which means as follows. As is my obligation, God says, I will proclaim that it was God who has chosen me to be king. I, King David, God chose me. I was the anointed one. And he says to me, God said to me, you are my son. You are precious like a son who was born to me today. So these two things, last concepts I'd like to conclude with today, but they're so important. One is, we should know David HaMelech, King David, was as pure. His whole life, he was as pure as a baby that was born, believe it or not. And that's why God anointed him, because he was always, no matter what he went through, as I've told you in the past, King David went through a lot of trials and tribulations. I don't think anyone could take even a percent of what he went through. Imagine how many times do we hear sometimes in the newspaper or on the news or today on the internet we read that a son wanted to kill a father. They stopped him on time, or he killed a parent or a grandparent. David HaMelech had that. His son was chasing him to kill him. He had to hide from his own son. That alone could kill somebody, having to go through this. And King David went through this his whole life, from his father who disowned him, sent him away. He went through hell of all hells, and still he remained as pure could be. So that's why it says that God calls him a child. And the last thing I'd like to speak about today is, it says as follows, Ani hayom yelidaticha. And the end of verse 7. And it says, you are precious like a son who was born to me today. And this, my friends, we have to realize every single morning when we wake up. How many of us, and when I say us, I don't mean us here on Zoom and in my house, how many people wake up in the morning and say, wow, this is a brand new day, a fresh day, I can start off fresh. I can start off new. Many people will wake up in the morning all groggy. Oh, you know what? I had a rough day yesterday and I had a rough day a whole week, and this is how my life is going to go, and my week is going to go like this, and terrible and terrible. And once we get into that state of mind, our day is going to be like our state of mind. We make our day, we break our day. We make our life, we break our life. If we view every single day as a new day, as though we were just born, that excitement to conquer the day, that excitement to conquer the world, that excitement to make it big. It doesn't matter what our day was like the day before. It doesn't matter what we did the day before. It matters right now. It's a fresh day. Let's do it brand new. We are born again. Every single day. I don't have to tell all of you, especially I have here Marsha, who knows what it's like, patients in the hospital. Today you're here, tomorrow you're gone. Forget about the COVID. By the way, people have been dying of other things besides the COVID. People are forgetting that. But Marsha knows what it's like. A person gets sick, all of a sudden wakes up in the morning, gets sick. Before you know it, that person, God forbid, could be gone. And we can't figure out why. How many times do we hear about healthy people who worked out, who ate well, who ate healthy? And all of a sudden, boom, they're gone in no time. We have to realize one thing, that every single day, like King David said at the end of this verse, Ani hayom yilidticha, as God gave birth to each one of us and created us again that day. That day is new. Yesterday is gone, my friends. Yesterday, 2 days ago, 3 days ago, last year, the past is gone. That's why it's called the past. It's gone. Today we wake up in the morning. Today we woke up. We were able to see ourselves in the mirror, to see our family. That is what life is all about. We have to treat each day as though it is a fresh day, a clean slate. Let's do good this week. Let's add to goodness. You know, there's something called the COVID virus. Doesn't mean that we have to stop doing favors and doing good deeds. There are so many people out there. For those of us who are more careful than others, if we pick up a phone and call up someone who needs that, hello, how are you? Or drop something off for somebody, do a little shopping and drop it off on their porch. You have no idea what that could do to someone. Always add to goodness. You know why? Because when God wakes us up in the morning, He added to the goodness by waking us up and teaching us a lesson. That today, it's a fresh start. Today, this is what King David said in the verse in chapter 2. Today is a fresh start. Go get the world. Be inspired and learn to inspire. Teach the world. Teach yourself. Inspire yourself to inspire the world. And by doing that, we will create a better world, just like God creates us and creates the world over and over and over again. That's what we say every day in our davening. Hamachadesh betuvai bechol yom tamid ma'aseh bereishis. He renews the world. Bechol yom, every day, tamid, constantly. Ma'aseh bereishis, just like the creation of the world. Because constantly God is creating and sustaining. So my dear friends, we might have had it rough last week. We might have had it rough last night, had it rough yesterday, 2 days ago, last year, the past 60 years. It doesn't matter. Today, my friends, is a fresh day. Let's look at it as though we were just born. Let's inspire and be inspired. Let's do good and let's make the world a better world. Many times when we say to ourselves, little me, I'm like a fly on the wall. How can I make the world a better world? And the answer to that is, me in my house, on my block, on my phone, in my car, to do one good deed. That's already making the world a better world, because everything in life is a domino effect. When you inspire someone, when you do someone a favor, somehow or another, someone else will benefit from that favor, from that goodness. So my friends, today we're awake, we're alive, Baruch Hashem. Thank God, God gave us a gift. It's called life. Let's use it correctly. Let's use it right. Let's use it for the good. And in Mir Hashem, by doing that, we will make the world a much better world. Our own world and everyone else's world. I want to wish everyone a great day, a beautiful day, a great week.